All right, let's see. Here we are, Wednesday, October 20th. And we have about, what, 3 weeks? About 3 weeks and 2 days. Yeah, Friday. Okay. So about 3 weeks into our left for project 2. And I was asked to review damage and first-person shooter. All right. So this is going to be code heavy. So I'm just going to start picking apart pieces of the code. Definitely stop me. Again, I don't know. Everyone's skill exposures, experience levels are just across the board. So I try to point out things that I think would be useful, but it's definitely let me know if something doesn't make sense and we could stay a little bit longer. If it's a C# topic or a game mechanic topic, whatever it is. Just I'm trying to teach to the middle, but everyone is really widely spanning with their skill levels. All right. So input handler, I don't really think there's going to be anything here of use for damage, but it was the first script on the game object, so just taking a quick look. Yeah, WebGL look sensitivity. All right, when we build for WebGL trigger, so inverting axis is common. Some people like to flip the axis, especially with flying games. In this case, first-person shooter, usually looking up and down. People have a different preference. Locking the cursor, sure, so it doesn't. You don't see the cursor. It's not like this big mouse cursor when the cursor's in the game window. So one thing I was looking at so there's a lot of the firing stuff in here. So if you ever need to look at the player's firing code, it might start in the input handling, crouching, reloading, switching weapons, selecting weapons, get the mouse or look axis. Okay. I don't think we'll need anything there. Let me frame up on the player actually. All right, I wanted to see the parts of the player. So we got the camera, the weapon camera, maybe if you're zooming in with a sniper rifle or something, and the sockets, the positions, where to place the weapons during its different actions. All right. I don't think we need to worry about that. So the capsule, usually the capsule deals with the collider. Interesting. It's empty, and this is just when you're using your jetpack. Here's the trails that are left behind. All right. Aim point and a shadow projector. Okay. A fake shadow because it's too expensive to do real shadows. So I don't see anything within there dealing with it. So I'm going to guess it's right on the player controller. So, all right. This is the jetpack stuff. That's what that neon stuff is. All right, player. So let's see. We got it's not the input. I can collapse that. Character controller. I'm going to guess a lot has to deal with in there. Let's see where the health. So we're looking at how the player can take damage, unless I've got the request wrong. You could put that in the chat window. But the player giving damage, I would probably start at looking at the weapons of the player and then onto the enemy. For player to receive damage, I'm probably going to look at this health script, and I'm probably going to look at the character controller. So I'm not going to be interested about this weapon here. I'm not interested in the jetpack. So character controller. This usually encapsulates the collider as well. The physics collider is where you would kind of start to register if the player is taking damage. Don't need audio sources. Damageable. That might be an interesting place to look. So multiplier to apply to the received damage, multiplier to apply to self damage. All right. So the damage that you give out to enemies, you can change that multiplier damage that you receive back. You could change that. How the players deal damage to the enemy. Okay. So I'm not really interested in the player controller then. The actor. This class contains general information describing an actor. Okay. Actor, you'll see this in the Unreal Engine a lot. So it could be either a player or an enemy. You can think of like an avatar. And they use this idea of actor in like multiplayer games a lot. So an actor, I'm going to look at this real quick because an actor might, on start, we go find some manager. And then we register as an actor. So this has to do with the event system, as I was saying in other classes. Callbacks to events are really popular. And then you destroy. Okay, it is very high level, no real specific logic in here. But everyone players and enemies must be actors. And then it looks like Damageable is at this higher level too. So I guess this isn't just specific to a player. I'll go take a look at the enemies, but your multiplier of the damage you give out, whether you're a player or an enemy, and the damage that you receive multiplier, whether you're a player or an enemy. And then go reference the health characteristic, which would be this one here. So I think the actor, the health, and the damageable must have to be on both the player and the enemies, and anything else that can be damaged, I guess, like destructible environments. All right, we have a health component. So that just says go get the health component. Okay. That means go find this health component on this game object. So on awake, so I am a damageable object. When I awaken, when this component becomes, the first frame becomes awake, when the game starts, or when the level starts and this character or enemy becomes awake, go find the health component on this game object. If there is none, go get the opponent in. So go look in the hierarchy that this game object is within and go see if there's a health component. So go in through this whole hierarchy of this player or enemy and go find health somewhere else. Search through the whole tree for this damageable object. So inflict damage. Let's see who's calling this. So damage area and projectile standard. Okay. So I'm going to guess that projectile standard is like a rifle, a pistol, submachine gun would use this script, and damage area is something like a rocket launcher and a grenade, mine, self-destruct would do this would call this. In either case, it looks like they're calling inflict damage. All right. So first off, this might be a good place to look. But I'm going to say that this might be applied. I have to go look at the guns because I'm going to guess that the gun script might cause the call inflict damage onto the damageable component on the enemy. And I think that's where you're going to want to look. But I'm making guesses right now. All right. But inflict damage, the amount of damage, is it explosion damage and a damage source? Okay, so this is inflict damage on the self. So the source might be a bullet, a player's bullet, inflicting damage on the enemy. In your situation, this is what you're looking for. That's cool. Don't care about the actor. I'm going to take a look at the health really quick, just so I understand, because these are components that are like heavily related. So I need to think about all of them as I think about the system. So let me think about the health a little bit. All right, that's a float. All right, the critical health ratio. When you're at 1/3, you have a vignette appearing. This must only be for the player. Unity action is part of the event system of Unity. So the event system is not only for the UI, you can also use it for other game systems, gameplay systems, and this demo is doing that. So we have on damage, on healed, and I die. Events are like calling methods that you just don't know which methods you're calling yet. So if the method has no input parameters, notice that there's nothing here. And then this one is saying that I will be passing in a float. And this one is I'll pass in a float and a game object when I call undamaged. And we call them later on. So current health, am I invincible? Can I pick up, I guess, health pickup? Get your ratio of health, and are you in a critical situation? Interesting. I've never seen a lambda in that direction. Oh, it's not. It's just saying less than get ratio, is it less than or equal to critical? Okay. So saying call this is a lambda operator. Here's the function. So go call get ratio. And whatever the result is, it returns a float. And then if it's less or equal to the critical health ratio, set that to true, else false. All right. Notice that there's an M underscore. So that means it's a member variable. Notice that it doesn't say public. The rest say public. By default, it's private if you don't specify. So just something to know, this is a private pool. And that's why it's specified as a member variable. Only this class can reference it. The rest is public. All right, you can heal, you can take damage. And if you're out of health, then you have to handle your death. All right. So before, I guess I'll click an enemy real quick and just see if they have the same setup here. So that's just the controller script. I should probably look at that because it's probably a larger part, but let me just see here. It has a health script, which I've looked at. I'll double click on it. Yep, it's the same one. Nav mesh, don't care. World space health bar. Okay, so that there's a health bar above the enemy, and it's a UI element, and it's not screen space; it's in world space because it moves around with the enemy right above it. We don't care about that. It's an actor. That's great. We don't care. And has a compass element. It can put an element up on the compass UI of the player. Interesting that it doesn't have damageable. I was kind of expecting that. That's all right. So you got health and enemy controller. All right, just gonna take a quick look at enemy controller. It has to have health, actor, and nav mesh components. Bunch of settings. All right, bunch of internal variables or members. Start, go out, register with the managers. Initialize its weapons. Detection modules, navigation modules. Body flash material. So every update loop ensures within level bounds. Use the detection, target detection go find, see if it should be hunting, I guess, the player. Current color, body flash. Was it damaged this frame? On damage. All right, subscribe to damage and death actions. So M health is get the component health on it. So health has on damaged, has this unity action. So where's that being referenced? The AI, the game, the UI. Destructible. It's back and take damage. So this is going back if it's damageable or player controller, which I think is just damageable as I saw it just on the player side. Yeah, it has health. Let me see underneath it what's going on. All right, it's got the animator. This must be its bone structure. Weapon root, hip box, health bar pivot, detection module. Okay, hitbox. That's what I was looking. Here we go. Damageable. So underneath the enemy root, down in its tree structure, it has a hitbox. It has the collider also. So this is what did I turn off? Can't render it. Let me see here. Okay. A bunch of the gizmos must have been turned off. So this green sphere, that's the hit collider for the robot. Here's the damageable script. Oh, and that's why damageable says get the health component that's right on this actual game object. If there is none, hunt through the whole hierarchy. Wow, that's not optimized at all. So that means go through this whole thing, starting from top and tracing down all these branches till you find a component health. In this case, I have to go to the root. So I guess if they built their prefabs where health is right at the root, and if the script starts at the root, then maybe it's okay. And that's how it handles an enemy getting hit. So that's one piece of the puzzle. So let's go take a look at a weapon. So does the player, I'm guessing a player doesn't start with a weapon. So if we click play, I'm guessing a weapon gets spawned in this hierarchy. There we go. Weapon parent slot, weapon blaster clone. Okay. So there must be a check in the player controller, like R9 check, click on start or wake, spawn this weapon. I'm not really concerned about what's happening there because here's the next piece of the puzzle that we're currently looking at. So here's a weapon. Just hunting around. Looks like there's something else in the hierarchy of importance. Nope. So weapon controller, fuel cell handler. That's probably more of an animation thing. I don't care. Overheat behavior. You run out of bullets and are running out of energy in the weapon, and the color change it and you can't shoot anymore. Don't care. Audio sources. So it must be in the controller here. So I guess what I'm looking for is what gets created from this weapon, like a bullet or something. Projectile prefab. That's to be it. So it's this thing for the blaster anyway. Projectile standard. All right. So I'll just deal with the standard scenario first before damage area, unless your weapon specifically has damage area. But projectile standard. So this thing leaves the gun. Let's take a look at it. Oop, he must have. These things probably get destroyed. Oh, he's probably moving. Nope. Looks like it destroys itself after a while. Speed, impact lifetime, max life. Okay, yeah. So it must be given some acceleration when it gets created. And it goes just for a certain amount of time. You cross through the level and it deletes itself, or it hits something, and no area damage. All right, so I'm really interested in this, not the gun. So let me see, where's the collider on this thing? What's going on here? I guess it'll open prefab, make this easier. So we have projectile standard. We have a mesh renderer. It's great. And the tip is nothing, just a location. Thought maybe there'd be a collider or something on it. Movement damage, debug, hittable layers, everything. On enable, get the projectile base, on shoot to it, and then, okay, this is what destroys it. After the lifetime gets destroyed. 1 second. Projectile base, was that, did I miss something? Projectile base. That must be get component, the projectile base. Oh, is it inherited? Oh, it is. Okay, get it itself. We go get its. Yeah, it's the only thing that's subtype that's weird. Sure. So this projectile standard is inheriting from projectile base. So we got the shoot, who's the owner, the direction, the position, the velocity, the initial charge, and then invoke it. This on shoot. Okay, so it starts with that functionality and it adds all this. And I guess this is a fancy or a way of saying the object of projectile standard I just created, reference it as its parent class as projectile base and place it in this debug utility, which is meant to handle its parent class and not its class. And then it's calling the on shoot for the parent class and then destroy it. So we have new void on shoot. So I'm pretty sure this is adding to on shoot. Just want to make sure. I don't think it really matters that much right now. Just it hides it from its heritage. Okay. So it calls the parent. I'm going to say it's calling itself. It's calling on shoot that's defined here. It's overriding on shoot for whatever reason. Okay. Whatever the reason for that was that. Anyway, velocity, ignored colliders. Don't think so. We're hitting everything. In no case of player shooting. It'll make projectiles not go through walls. Sure. All right. I think this is where if it's correcting its movement, applying some gravity. Okay. And then it's ray casting out if it's hitting anything. In no case of casting. Okay. If you've already within a collider. So interesting. I would have thought that a bullet would move so fast that the moment you fire it, you can just let's shoot a ray cast out and see if you're hitting something. But it looks like this bullet's moving slow enough where it might take some time to see if it hits something. I just want to click play. I've never actually didn't play FPS for a bit. I just want to see how long it takes to hit something. Like with the like a rocket launcher or grenade launcher, I can understand it takes just like you have to take some time. But, all right, I guess it's very just like a little fraction, so you can't just do an instant hit test. All right, that's all I wanted to see. So, shoot if player weapons manager. I'm guessing it's doing an initial based on the speed of this thing. When you first shoot, it figures out how far out should it ray cast, origin, direction, out the max distance. That's what I want to see. Camera muzzle. Okay, the magnitude on the camera muzzle. Okay, so when you first fire, it shoots a ray cast out only so far as whatever this magnitude is. And if something is within that, if we do hit something, a collider on an enemy, then they're hit, which is what this is. If ray hit valid, we have a hit, then we have a hit that we can respond to. So it's calling on hit. So it's going to move down a little bit. Is hit valid on hit? So get the collider that we hit and go get the okay, that's why damageable script has to live on the component. That's collider. If it's damageable, inflict damage on it. And if we have to do impact VFX, that's where we do it here. Sound effects, and then destroy. So that might be a good area. I just want to see is hit valid. So what was, oops, my fault. So is hit valid? Okay, then on hit we call. Gotcha. So is hit valid? Pass it in the raycast too. If the collider, okay, has a component out that says ignore hit detection, then we return false. All right. So we have possible hits that we do hit, but there might be a component on whatever we hit that has a component that says ignore hit detection script. And so even though this was initially true, we do a double check. Sometimes you want to return false on things that say ignore me. And then ignore hits with triggers that don't have a damage. Okay, so if it's a collider, we triggered with it, or if the collider we hit is a trigger, and the collider, um, if we do a check on it for a get component and that's null, meaning that there is no damageable, return false as well. Ignore hits with specific ignored colliders, like self collision. Okay. If the member variable ignored colliders is not null, so it could be the gun or the player, whoever fired this, if they have a member variable on this that's not null and it contains this collider that was on it, then return false. And if we do all these checks and everything still gets down here, then we know that we're good. Return true here, in which case we say, okay, we have a hit. Let's handle the hit. So it's on hit. So we pass in this information and we check if it's area of damage. We do a little something a little different. Else we do a standard hit damage, like a rifle or a pistol, and then we inflict damage on that damageable component. Play some VFX. Last thing I want to look at before we figure out if this is right is the update. So if that initial raycast doesn't do anything, so right here, we destroy this thing. So if that's the case, if we hit something, we don't go into here. But in here, it looks like we do a bunch of trajectory checking, overriding, apply some gravity, whatever, adjust its movement, yada, yada, yada. And here we do our hit detection, which we do the same is hit valid. And hit distance is less than the closest hit. So it's in this moving. You don't know if you like the next time that you're checking it, if you move through a collider and you're on the other side of it, a bunch of stuff. So they have to do a fancy checking. But eventually, after they do their checking, we still get that on hit. So how does the player deal damage to the enemies for dealing with delayed? So you said SFX, so sound effects. So you want to delay sound effect. Um, so if that's the situation, well, here's the impact VFX, and here's the impact sound clip. So this plays the sound clip. This create in our audio system, it creates a sound effect. And there's the clip, there's a position it's played at. So there's like spatial or 3D audio. It places it into a group, I'm guessing, and there's a spatial blend, and then a roll off. And I'm going to guess that you could, if there's not a time delay here, you could do a coroutine. No, there's actually, you can call a method. You don't have to call a method directly. There's like Unity method delay call. There's a special way to call methods like with a time delay. And just to confirm, this is what you're trying to do. Is that it? Hello? Is that you're trying to do a delayed sound effect?
Miss Road. I meant to put like a VFX.
Okay. Impact VFX. So what you
And
want to do you want to delay the start of the VFX?
more of a, like I want to delay the damage of the B of so it like looks better with the VFX. So like for an explosion, right? That takes a second to appear. That the damage appears a little bit later as well.
And sorry, did you say like a grenade?
Yeah, it's sort of like do you know like
Well,
how they
that
what?
well, you throw a grenade and it takes 2 seconds, and then the grenade explodes.
No, it's like the after when the impact happens, right? Uh, im then after that, when the BFX starts appearing for the impact, uh, then there's gonna be like a instance where it's like kind of like charging and then exploding, kind of like that. And then it's kind of hard to say. It's like what I'm trying to do, right, is that I already have a BFX that takes a little bit to charge and then it explodes when it hits something. I want to be able to make the damage take a little bit, delay a little bit, so like it makes sense that the damage
Uh,
appears later.
um, so you want to delay you want to call the impact VFX, but you want to call the damage. So is it a straight point damage? It's not an area damage.
It's an area damage.
So it's going to call this. Like on the prefab, do you have it turned on area damage?
I haven't really checked for that. I just used the one for the blaster.
So the blaster will see if there's any settings up at the weapon level. No, so I think it's everything is going to be handled on the projectile prefab. Um, but right here it says area of damage, none. So if I hunt around, so like the disc has area of damage. So I would build this off something that actually uses area of damage, which right now is only this, the disc. So this says damage 40, then area of damage is okay. So it's plugging in this damage area script. So here you have an area of effect, 2.5 meters. Here's a fall off of the damage across that 2.5 meters. Debug color, which we're not going to see during gameplay, so I don't care. So this is inflict damage in area. So this gets called. All right. So if area of damage, so if there's a script plugged in there, it'll call this, else that. So you're not going to get this inflict damage called. You're going to call this area of damage, inflict damage in area. You're going to call this. And so this makes a new dictionary of health and damageable. Dictionaries are like lists, but they have a key like a specific in this case a script health object linked to a specific damageable object. And okay, it makes like a sphere collider in the area that the grenade or wherever the explosion happens, and then it looks which colliders are within that sphere, which of them are damageable, and then it goes and calls damage on their health script, their health component. So in either case, I think you could just pop up to here and you could just call this in like a coroutine. You could just all you want to do is delay this, right?
Yeah, basically.
And you
So
have I guess you're gonna have to like tweak the number. It might be like a half a second, it might be like 1.5. So you just don't know. You gotta keep testing and playing with different delays to get that to work. So you could edit the whole projectile standard script, or you could kind of duplicate it and make a script just for your one weapon. But I would say just go ahead and edit the script, but then you're going to have to go through. No, you don't have to go through the others because you can just make this one. Yeah. So you can edit the script. I was just worried that if you edit the script, you're going to have to go through and fix all the other prefabs that are using this. But I don't think so because you're just using it for yourself. So what you can do, I'm not going to make a public variable, but I'll make something here.
Maybe add a trigger or something.
So all you really need right now is a time, damage, delay. And I'm going to set that to 0. And that means that everything that inherits this, there'll be no delay. So it won't, but what I'm trying to say is it won't change the behavior of the other weapons, the other projectiles that are using this. Because I'm going to default it to 0 time, meaning don't do anything. Or I'll just say, yeah, I'll just make it. Set it to false, and you're gonna override it later. Yeah, maybe something like that. In either case, there's just this. It's actually a member variable, so if you want to be fancy, I'll do m underscore, but whatever. Basically, it's saying, is this going to have a delayed damage or not? By default, no. So that when all the other projectile prefabs have the script, they won't change their behavior because it's off by default. But what you want to do is go on down here. See here, if it's an area of damage. Now what we're going to check is if delayed damage, we're going to do one style, else we're going to do the basic. This is the basic. This is I should say, the default behavior. And I set it up so that the default behavior will still, this is false by, and you know what? I'm going to make that public actually, because then you can change that. And if it's public, I'll probably move it up a little bit so it's with all the public stuff. So is there a certain section I should move this into? Let me read this. Radius, root, tip, impact, VFX, max lifetime, hittable speed, gravity, damage. Okay, here they're talking about area of damage, so this is a good spot for me. Delayed area damage. I'm going to change the name of that because we're only using it with area damage. So notice there's a little red dot down here because I changed the name. Change it to that. I'm going to save it for right now and go back. And there it is, delayed area damage. Off by default. Perfect. So since this projectile disc is the only one that has area damage, I'm going to test on it. And which weapon is it in that secondary scene? Let's see. Is this the weapon that's in front of me?
Yeah, and the secondary thing should be the first thing that appears.
Is that the disk? Okay. So I can do testing in this scene. That's good. So let me just see how it feels. Yeah, it's like a one-hit thing now. Okay, but I do see that it explodes. So basically, I want the robot to take damage later. Okay. So just to make things simple on the prefab projectile disk, I'm going to open it. I'm just going to turn on. I'm going to say yes, there's a delay, but I don't know how much the delay is. That's okay. I'm just going to hard code that for now because I'm not really making like a universal thing. So let me just double check that that was saved. Yep. So we're going to do a delay. How much the delay is, I could expose that to the inspector if other people are going to use it, but it's just for me, so who cares? Now, what I want to do is I want to call a coroutine. Yep. So let's take a look at that. Start coroutine. And it looks like start coroutine already has an option to have a delay. Start coroutine. We have two overrides. Awesome. Let's take a look at those overrides. So one, you could just give the name of the method as a string. Two, you can pass in the routine variable, which is the variable for the method you want to call. And two, you have a string and then an object, which that's awesome. It doesn't even tell you. Doesn't even tell you if that second parameter is an actual delay or not. So I could
Probably
set the
just do
constructors. Well, I could just do a pause. Yeah, I could just do a pause. Okay, this will work. So, I'll just put the method right above it. Who cares? So I'm going to call it, instead of wait print, I'm going to call it delayed area damage. All right, so it's saying it's using system collections generic, but we don't have that. So up here, yeah, it's using system collections generic. What's the problem? Oh, using systems collection. Sure. So it added using systems collections up there. All right. So that's good. No errors here. And I don't even have to pass that. So then, because we're just hard coding it. So we're going to say, let's wait 3 seconds. Let's really wait a long time and see what happens. All right. And so we're actually just going to call this. So I don't need to print anything. We do have to know some stuff. Okay. We do need this point just coming from here. All right, let me see if it's passing it. All right, so we will have to pass in a vector 3 of point. And the coroutine that we're going to call. So let me see if I remember this right. Was it the, I think it was this. So whenever you need to call a method that's going to receive that has some additional information, you have to not connect to So system Unity engine, which one is this? This is systems collection. This has to be a Unity engine coroutine. I forgot. It's definitely a way to do this. All right, so if we're going to pass in a float, you say coroutine, yeah, private enumerator, coroutine. Coroutine equals wait and print with a 2F, and then start coroutine with coroutine. Yeah, private enumerator. Yeah, it's not coroutine. It's enumerator. And I'm going to pass in, just call it coroutine. Pass that in. All right, let me see if this works, and then I'll explain it. Guess not. Let me try it
Or maybe
again.
maybe shoot your feet.
Can you hit yourself
Yeah.
with the grenade? If there's no self, there's no that ignore for the self with that. Let me see. Secondary scene. Let's see if they're working. Let me just make sure you can hurt yourself. So let me
Debug log maybe?
desk. Let me turn it off. All right. Let me see if I can actually hit myself first. Okay, yeah, you can. All right. So let me just put this to 0. So let me make sure everything's passing through. So if delayed area of damage, numerator equals delayed area damage, pass in the point, and then start the coroutine. Coroutine receives the point, waits, and then all this is exposed just like here. You have access to that. All right, let me just try it with a 0 delay. No. So now the next step is let's do some prints. So let's make sure we get here. Stuff passed. Then let's see if we actually go into here. Second. And let's see if we actually go into here. Oh, went all the way in. First, second, third. So we made it into the coroutine. So I'm guessing this wait for seconds is screwing up.
Is it on the update loop?
Area of damage, inflict point diameter. It's good. This point. It's the same point. Let me check the example. Yield, return new, wait for seconds, wait time, and then print. All right, let me do a fourth, and let me just set the time to 2 seconds. So we just make sure we run through everything, and then I got to check point. Maybe I'm not passing in point correctly. One, two, three. Yeah, it doesn't. So something with the execution order. Now I got to see, is it wait for seconds, or if it is it this area damage that is good. One, two, three. Oh, it's the wait for seconds. I'll just wait a little bit. Just okay. Oh, it's being destroyed. This projectile is being destroyed, and so this enumerator. So this enumerator needs to call this. We need to call this right away. Because this is being destroyed, and that's killing this process. Okay, so is it on here? Yes, I got to get the hell off of this projectile right away. So it calls here. What's this doing? Yada, yada, yada. Inflict damage. Make our dictionary. Go inflict these damage. If it's unique damage health, add if health. And it's not a unique damage health. Contains a key. Health. This dictionary. Okay, so go through, find everything that's in this sphere, and go add it to this dictionary, and we're going to damage it, and then go apply the damages. Okay. Unique damage, inflict damage. Oh, over that distance curve. Go figure out how much to damage everybody, and then go damage it. And it's doing inflict damage. So we got to get over to here, which is going to be on the player or the enemy. And I might just need to modify this. Yeah, we'll do this. So I'll pass the delay over here then. So I'll say something like float delay damage, and I'll set it equal to 0. So when you set a parameter to something, it means it is optional, and it won't screw up its signature on everything else. So like if I didn't do this, everything else that is calling this is going to call errors. Like if I jump over to here, it's going to say, hey, I got a bunch of scripts, or in this case, just one, that are calling it, and it's calling a method with a different type of signature with 3 parameters instead of 4. So to prevent that, I'm going to say, hey, if somebody doesn't call this parameter, just set it equal to 0, which is what I want anyway, because it figures out all this crap, then it figures out how much to apply the damage. Now, if yeah, I'll just make this a bool because right now, because I just want to do a quick check. Say false, right? So then here I'll say if delay damage else actually just apply the damage. So this is the default behavior. This will be true if you don't enter in anything, so everything is left the same. That's good. That's what we want. Else, this is where we could do the code setup. So let me go back over here. Yep. So this all does work fine. It's just this thing gets destroyed. So I don't need these checks. But I will chop this out because I'm not going to do that over there. We're going to do it. Get too many scripts open. I lost track of where I was. Damage area calls inflict damage. Oh, it calls it onto the health, right? So take damage. For each. Oh, inflict damage. My fault. Right, I was here. Yep. So I'm going to make an enumerator here. I'm just going to delete the rest of these so it's true. So this will be delayed take damage. I don't know what I need to pass in at the moment. I know that the enumerator needs the systems collection. That's great. So let's pop that in up at the top. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to do this. That means we need to pass in total damage and damage source. Okay. We'll get there in a minute. So all this can go. So I want that. It's going to go here. It's going to be called delay take damage. And we're going to have to pass here. This is like what we want to pass in. And this is a float in a game object. And awesome. That looks good. That looks good. This delay damage is coming from here, so we need to pass in a true. All right, so project this. I want to get rid of all this crap. This was my previous coding attempt. I don't need it. I'm just reverting projectile standard. And if you remember, I put a little variable up top. And I put in the system collection. I don't need that anymore. And but I do need to pass in here. So in this talks to damage area. Yeah, well, actually, I don't need that, but I do need this bool. Yeah. All right. So I actually will use that bool. So delayed damage area. When we do call damaged area, yep. Here we say, yeah, we can just pass it in right here. So inflict damage in area. Just gonna delay damage. And I'm just gonna pass this in. And if somebody calls this and I reference it, just set to false. And where I can use this is for each inflict damage. Here we go. See that bool equals false? See it at the end, an optional one? Use that there. All right. I'm going to reorder these scripts. So it's actually projectile standard calls damage area calls damageable. We get all the way down the chain. And if delay damage, then we do the coroutine instead of doing it right away. Coroutine is just the same method, just wait 2 seconds. All right, let's give that a try. Okie dokie. No errors. That's good. Delayed damage area still on. I don't know if I trust that will just stay on. Let's get check. Yep. Perfect. Let's give it a go. Yeah, there it is. Nice. So I'll do it one more time. Let's kill ourselves. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, dead. So it works. I'll try it on an enemy. Pops me into the main screen. So it worked on me. I'll try it on an enemy, and then I'll just review the code and just end class. Mouse speed slow for some reason. I would speed it up for this. Okay, here we go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Boom. All right, it works. Pretty much. Does anyone doubt? I mean, it looks like it works to me, right? I tested on myself. I tested on enemy. Looks good. All right, let's go over how I did that. Projectile disk, right? Projectile standard. Right here, damage, delayed area damage, turned on. Cool, right? So where's that coming from? Projectile standard up at the top. Public bool, delayed area damage by it's defaulted to false, so that if there's other prefabs that use this, they'll default to false. I only turn on true when I want to use it. So where do I use it? Let's go find my references. All right, on hit, after we determined we're going to hit something, after all those other checks, if we're doing area damage, meaning if the area damage script is plugged into our projectile here, which it is, which is this damage area script, right? If that's plugged in, We're going to do area damage instead of regular point damage. Now what happens here? This is all the same, except we have a new parameter, which is by default false. And if you look over the message signature, the method signature, it's optional. So if it's called anywhere else, it's okay. It'll be false by default. And I turned on for this prefab, I turned it on to be true. So this will be passed in as true for this situation. So where's that being called? Inflict damage, bool, damage delay, it defaults to false. Where am I using it? In here. Using it all the way at the end when we determine who we need to damage in that area. Inflict damage on the damageable script, the object that's the component on the game object. And all the way at the end here, we have the bool, which defaults to false. In this case, though, we're going to be sending in true. Now this jumps us to the damageable script, which gets instantiated on enemies and players. And here's the method that we changed, inflict damage. It now receives a bool, which defaults to false, and it's optional. So if it's used elsewhere, we're not going to break anything. And we're in this case, we're setting it to true. And where are we using that? Down here, after we determine what we're going to damage, the total damage, and who we're damaging, or who did the damage to us. If we're delaying the damage, we're going to call this coroutine, which is just doing this, but just to whatever seconds later. Coroutine. It's like this. It's going to receive in that float, that game object. It's going to wait for a hard-coded time, 2 seconds, and then call damaged. All right. Any questions on that? All right. Class is over. You guys leave. I'm going to put the video up.